It is my honor, my privilege to introduce the 2020-2021 New Jersey State Teacher of the Year, Angel Santiago. So Angel is an elementary school teacher at Loring Flemming Elementary School in Blackwood, New Jersey. He is the New Jersey State Teacher of the Year and the Camden County Teacher of the Year, yes? Yep. And so his passion for education is rooted in fostering strong relationships with his students, their families, his colleagues, and the communities in which he serves. He believes that if students engage in community service, that it will foster within them empathy, which is instrumental to closing the equity gap in many communities. Angel graduated from Fairleigh Dickinson University here in New Jersey, a member of both Phi Theta Kappa and Kappa Delta Pi honor societies, and he holds a master's degree in education and a bachelor's degree in humanities. He's taught his entire career in Camden County, and he grew up as a student in the Vineland Public Schools. He began teaching at the Lindenwold Public Schools, and in 2013 moved to Gloucester Township. Angel currently lives in Elmer, New Jersey with his wife, also an educator, and their son. His hobbies include singing, playing the guitar, and music. Prior to becoming an educator, Angel was a music recording artist. Angel and his family enjoy traveling and value their time together. So Angel, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Jeannie, Steve, Kim, Wamboy, for letting me be a part of this speaker series. And it's very exciting to get to talk to the future of this profession that has given so much to me. And I want to kind of not just sit here and talk in front of you. I put together a presentation to show you my journey of becoming an educator, from the beginning of my career as a student to where I am now, and everything that has really culminated into becoming the teacher I am today. So without further ado, I'm going to open up or share my screen. I do that so many times a day where I say share my screen. I'm going to share my screen with you folks. And we can start the presentation. All right, so during this whole presentation, I want you to consider what is your purpose, because that is a fluid statement. We'll get into what the word purpose means. But I want to share with you my story, the drive, the ambition, and the calling to what I believe is the greatest profession in the world. So once again, my name is Angel Santiago. I am the 2021 New Jersey State Teacher of the Year. Woo woo! I love this position. It's been an honor and privilege to be here. 9-year professional teacher. I teach 5th grade English language arts. I've taught 3rd and 5th grade, but I've taught all subjects in the past. Like Jeannie said before, I taught at Loring Flemming Elementary School. But the single greatest gift that this profession has given to me, and I want to hit you folks hard, the skills, the patience, the opportunity to be a great father and a role model for my family. I want to tell you right now, the skills that I learn and I practice every day in pedagogy really have played an instrumental role in me being an empathetic father and being able to really show compassion toward my son and what he believes is right and what he believes and what he feels. And I think one of the greatest things that I got to hear this year, out of the whole hustle and bustle of winning this award, my son came up to Loring Flemming as they announced it to the state, and there was a caravan of police that rang, their sirens to celebrate me, and it was a great celebration. And he got caught up and he was very excited, and so he keeps on hearing people, "Oh, your daddy's Teacher of the Year, Teacher of the Year." So I started asking him, I'm like, "So what do you want to be when you grow up?" And without dropping a dime and without any coaching whatsoever, he goes, "I want to be a teacher." And he's 3 years old, and he may not ever be a teacher, but this moment where he saw his dad being celebrated for being a teacher, he knows the importance of the profession of education and how important teachers are to the next generation. And here's a picture of him right now. He is my pride and joy. It's the greatest gift that education has ever given to me, was to be a competent father. And that's very important, because I never had that when I was younger. I never had that male role model. I never had that father-like figure when I was younger. So we often get this question all the time, and Kim can attest to this. Why did you become a teacher? And when we are asked this question by the media, by interviewers, they're looking for a 1 to 2 sentence response, but it is so much more than a 1 to 2 sentence response. It really boils down for me to 3 aspects in my life. Inspiration, the action or power of moving the intellect or emotions. These are the people, the teachers, the parents, the role models, and sometimes the events that move your heart and move your mind. They play on your heartstrings and they make you think a different way. The next aspect is goals, right? The end toward which effort is directed, your aim. What do you aim to accomplish? What do you want to accomplish? And usually our goals are very personal to us, but they are finite. So once you begin something, there is a means to that end. And once you accomplish that goal, you move on to other goals, but they're finite. But more importantly, I think the reason why I became a teacher revolves around my purpose. And a purpose is something that's set up as an object or end to be attained. But I really do love this word, intention. Intention is your why. Why are you becoming a teacher? Right? Your why. And your purpose and also your goals, these can be fluid. It's a fluid perception, right? It develops and grows and matures with us. And unfortunately, many people will not find their purpose in their career, and they'll have to supplement that with projects outside of their careers. And that's completely fine. That's okay. But a purpose is a journey compiled of people, events, places, education, interests, and this could be infinite. It will be with you until you leave this earth. Your purpose will be with you until you leave. So I want to really go back on my story, on how I became an educator, my journey, because you may find some things that you relate to. If you do find things that you relate to, that you love to hear, my students and I use sign language kind of to agree. If you're feeling something in class, if you feel what the speaker is saying, we kind of do the I love you sign for American Sign Language, and we kind of ring it out. It's almost like an amen. I hear you, right? So if you agree or you understand or you know where I'm coming from, just give me an I love you little. I love what you're saying, and that's your way to participate. And a little bit later on, we'll have some questions, but I want you to be engaged. I want you to listen. I want you to find something similar in my story, and look for your goals and your purpose as you review mine. So we'll take you back to the beginning, because I think family is the foundation of education. Family, the connection between family and educator has to happen, right? So I'll give you a little bit of background information about me. I had a young mother. She was 17 years old, senior year of high school. Some of you listening to me right now are in your senior year of high school. She was pregnant with me for her last 4 months of high school. She graduated, and 2 weeks before her 18th birthday, she gave birth to a son, and which was me. My father left me when I was an infant. My mother worked at the casinos right away. 18 years old, she went into casinos. She was working swing shift. Couldn't have a lot of time with me, so I was basically raised by my grandmother and my titi Sylvia, which means aunt in Spanish. And my titi Sylvia has special needs. My abuela, she only speaks Spanish, second grade education. I'm sorry, in Spanish, and really, I had difficulties comprehending language, whether it be Spanish or English. My mother struggled. She had a series of abusive relationships from her father to my father to my brother's father, as you can see my brother in that picture. And, this all happened before I even started school. We were kids and young kids. And most of this I don't know. I just recollect from conversations. But some of it I do remember. And I say that because there are some things that are happening behind the scene that you may not encounter in a curriculum in your teacher prep programs, right? For instance, knowing the story of your families, knowing why a young single mother can't make it to parent-teacher conference, or can't make it to a play, or can't make it to an event. Knowing the issues on why they are sacrificing their time and not jumping on biases is extremely important in being an effective educator and just being a human in general. So my mom had to set out a couple goals, and I point out my mother's goals because, you know, goals and purpose can sometimes trickle down and be learned. So she had a couple goals: get out of this abusive relationship, get a better job, go back to college, you know, eventually get a house for her boys, all of which she accomplished, all of which required those sacrifices that I just mentioned. But she also had another purpose. You know, she had a purpose not to be the best mother, not only to be the best mother, but to be the best mother and father that she could be for her two boys, no matter what. And for that, you know, I look back at my time and my story of becoming an educator, and the lessons that I learned from my mother, who I deem my first teacher, are still with me today and will be with me until the day that I pass this earth, and will be passed down to my son as well. And that is extremely important, because those are the stories you need to learn as an educator. So we take myself to early education, right? And because this is the first time that I really met a teacher who made a great influence in my life. And I still remember it 30 years after the fact. I still remember their influence on me. This was taken about 30 years ago. That is 7-year-old Angel Santiago right there. I don't know what happened to me since then. I've been trying to stop the growth and the getting older. Unfortunately, I haven't been very successful, but I was very shy, uncomfortable with speaking. I failed the first grade. I was deemed basic skills and intervention in reading, math, and speech. And I remember precisely those moments going down for basic skills because they were in the basement of my elementary school, and knowing that I was deficient and I wasn't good at school really played on my confidence. But it was almost a godsend that I repeated the first grade, because I was introduced to a woman who would change my life and my outlook of school. And her name was Miss Debbie Quinn, who was a first-year educator in the elementary school that I attended. And she was one of those teachers that went above and beyond the curriculum, really set out to understand the story that was happening at home, right? Fortunately, Debbie actually graduated with my mom, and she knew who I was 7 years after the fact, that my mom was a single mother, that she was working hard, and she made it up. She took it upon herself to build my confidence and know that family situation, and made me feel as if I was smart, that I was welcome in school. And she did that not just for me, but for the entire class as a whole. So I take it back to goals, right? First year teachers, all of us, really, our goal is to help our students academically, to help our students how to learn and read, how to write, especially our elementary school students, and do basic math. But her purpose was to go beyond the curriculum, to make us feel like we were good at school, to make our students feel like they are welcome here, like they should have stock in their school, to make them feel excited about coming to school every day. And she accomplished that and really made me feel like school was a safe place for me. And that's not written into the curriculum. Those are things that, we have to seek out as educators. So, I'm sorry, I have to go back one. So my inspiration, and possibly the most pivotal point in me becoming an educator, where a teacher actually planted the seed of becoming an educator, or giving me some sort of purpose in life, was during my middle school years. And I was introduced to an educator by the name of Mark J. Malamed. Mr. Malamed, by far, was my favorite teacher of all time. Middle school was a place where I met lasting impressions. I had great friends. They had a great staff who worked in conjunction with each other. The staff at Veterans Memorial School was a family. And the educators supported each other, and in turn made sure that their students felt wanted, felt part of the school, and it was just a big family. It was a great environment to be in. And so Mark introduced me to performing arts. He inspired me to be more than just a poor Hispanic kid from Vineland, right? He taught me how to be a global citizen with his Gabriel Project. And a little bit of background about the Gabriel Project, because I think it's important to know what we did in school and how that affected me as an adult. The Gabriel Project was a charity organization founded by Mark, early 90s. And in the Gabriel Project, Mark invited his students to partake in charity events and raising money to bring kids from other countries. At this point, we had a relationship with Tanzania, over to the United States to perform life-saving heart surgery. And at that point, I didn't know anything about the world outside. I didn't know much geography. I just knew Vineland. I came from Vineland. I literally spent time in a 2 to 4 mile radius around my house. And he really opened up the world for me. He opened up the walls of the classroom and made me feel connected to the world. And so the mantra of the Gabriel Project was kids saving kids here and there. And being a part of that was the first time that I actually felt like I had a purpose in life, to help my fellow human beings out, to be a part of a global world, to really being empathetic and a person whose life work is to help out those who are in need. And so, that started to plant a seed of maybe education being a part of my story. And I still continue to work for the Gabriel Project. I was an ambassador for the Gabriel Project. I was able to speak in front of stakeholders in California, Hawaii, at home as well, to try to engage them and try to get interest in them being a part of our project. But in high school, I started to set some of these goals and what I was going to do for after high school. And a lot of you are at this moment right now. The gears are moving. You're trying to figure out what college you want to go to. And education, obviously, for most of you, this is an area that you're looking at pursuing. For some of you, you may take a couple twists and turns along the way, and that's completely fine. All of us have a different journey, and that's part of your story. But I started setting goals to move forward for an education, and I wanted to be in performing arts. I knew that I would, at a young age, that I had to take my shot at this. I wanted to be an actor. And another one of those teachers who made an impact on me, who's also a friend of Mark's, they were kind of family, Ms. Sue Caccini, who I have here, a beautiful woman who I'm still is a mentor to me. She's like a mother to me. She was my play director. And she guided me through the process of applying for colleges, finding a college that suited me. And I'm sure that most of you have that guidance counselor, that teacher who's helping you at this moment in your stage in life. I graduated with honors. I did very well, thanks to Debbie Quinn, right, in high school. And I was set to start Rutgers. I would have actually been, funny fact, I would have actually been probably in Rutgers at the same time as Kim, but something happened. I was offered a record contract. So took the record contract, and yes, that's me with highlighter on. Don't judge me. That was all the rage back in the early 2000s. I was in a rock and emo band called Days Like These. I signed that contract. Kind of broke my mother's heart because she wanted me to go to college. But she understood that if I didn't take that risk, that I probably would regret it later on in life. So she supported me. Toured the country for 5 years. We did things such as the Vans Warped Tour. I lived in Santa Barbara, put out 2 albums, visited most major cities throughout the United States. I played in Canada. It was a great experience that to this day, I'm very happy that I took, because it broadened my horizons. I got to talk to people outside of New Jersey and connect to people. And I think language and physical connection with people is extremely important when you're setting up networks of that nature and whatnot. So I got to really broaden my horizon, see what was going on beyond just New Jersey. And, you know, my purpose might have changed just a little bit. I still wanted to help fellow human beings out, but it was through a different medium. I was using music, I was using my lyrics, I was using my voice to help out those who were listening. And I really thought that was my purpose at that point. But I was conscious enough to give myself a 5-year limit, right? If nothing happens in 5 years, I'm going back home, I'm going to school, and I knew exactly what I was going to do. Because it was natural with the performing arts. But I am very happy about this because music still continues to be a useful tool in my pedagogy and my life. I play for my students on a weekly basis. I'm also a DJ at this point. So whenever we do events for school, I'm the go-to for providing the music for my kids, and also keeps me up to date and relevant when we talk about topics that connect with my students. So I do really appreciate this experience. My students love to see the music videos, and it's almost like my ace in the back pocket. It's the first thing I show them when we're getting to know each other, so that they understand that I used to be cool. And though I have a bunch of dad jokes, I used to be a cool rock star back in the day. So I went back to my roots. I went back home, started community college, went to Cumberland County College, which is the Rowan College of New Jersey. I was laser focused on becoming high school history teacher. That's what you couldn't tell me any different. I was gonna be a high school history teacher. I loved history. I still do love history. And I have to give kudos to the community colleges in New Jersey who do a great job of being affordable and accommodating. I was working full time. My mom gave her blessing for me to go to college, but when it came back for me to go on tour and be in a band, but when I came back home, college was my responsibility. She would support me as much as she could, but she didn't have a lot of money. So once again, community colleges were affordable. They helped me follow my path in becoming an educator. The staff at Cumberland County College, extremely accommodating, and they helped me fill out FAFSA forms, which I know can be sometimes of a tricky endeavor. We had great professors, especially my professors in the educational department. And that's where another instance where I start to reevaluate my purpose, right? Because at this point, I wanted to be a secondary, like I said before, secondary education major, high school history. That's what I wanted to do. But the education department director, Dr. Donna Bender, she had different plans for me. And she evoked something in me that I didn't even know. So, she helped me shape my purpose. And this is the lovely Miss Donna Bender. Beautiful person, beautiful woman. She now resides in Rhode Island, has retired. She has earned it. But she knew my story, right? She would pick my brain. She knew that I was somewhat interesting. She saw something in me. When she looked at her students, it was basically the same, right? There weren't very many males that were going into education. And on top of that, there weren't very many Hispanic or males of color pursuing this career. And she would ask me to stick around. And I had my mindset of going to Florida. My best friend was in Florida. I was going to finish my secondary ed degree in history in Florida, but she asked me to stick around here in New Jersey and to try to pursue an education degree, which opened my eyes, right? She opened my eyes. She knew my story. And once she knew my story, she used it against me. And I say that with the most sincerity and good nature. She knew that I grew up in elementary school, really not having a father figure and relying on educators like Mark to provide me with that outlet to fill in that void. And then she went in and even more, and she really sat down and told me the statistics of really men and elementary education, but more importantly, men of color in elementary education, and how the student population is increasingly getting more and more diverse, yet we're not keeping up when it comes to the demographic of teachers. And so, after a couple conversations and her really playing out my heartstrings, she helped me shape and define my new purpose, or, you know, really focus my purpose in becoming an elementary educator. So I started a hybrid online learning module with Fairleigh Dickinson University, and they had a partnership with Cumberland County College at that time. And I have to say, for all of the higher ed institutions, four-year institutions who provide this model, I have to give kudos to them, because once again, it gives students like me who were working and paying for our own education and working full time, which coincidentally are people who are students of color or college students of color or lower income students. It gives us an opportunity to follow that path, and I have to give kudos and thanks to those institutions that do that. I graduated with a master's in elementary education and a bachelor's in humanities, and I took the show on the road. I was going to be a teacher right away. I knew it. Let's back up a bit. I spent that entire summer, 15 interviews, trying to find a job. And I know some of my friends right now, it took longer than a year, and it took long-term subbing, and it took a couple long-term sub assignments in order for them to find a job. But I was working full-time at that part of my life before I actually found a job. So I was taking vacation time to do these interviews, and that was fine and all, because I eventually found a home in Lindenwold. And I have to say that first year of education was the most difficult of my entire career, and that's including the last year of COVID, which all of us know how difficult that was. But my first year, I took some hits, bumps, and bruises. And I say that because I don't want you folks going into education knowing that you're going to be the best of the best, and that there is not going to be any problems, because there will be, and it's okay to feel that way. Lindenwold was low, had a low socioeconomic area. The students struggled economically, but more importantly, when it comes to their social emotional learning, when it came to just economic status, they just struggled. And as a new teacher, I was struggling at that point. And I was a hot mess. I'm not even going to lie to you. I was a hot mess. I had a lot of growing to do. And I wouldn't take that year back for anything, because, when we fail, when we're the most uncomfortable, that's when we grow the most. And that was part of my journey. And since then, I really took it upon myself to try to be the best educator that I could possibly be, and to ask for help. So if that was one of the things that I learned the most, was to really, that year, the thing that I learned the most that year was to really build a network of educators who have been through this road and this process that could really help you. And it's great to have a mentor teacher, but that's just one teacher. When you can build a team to help support you, it lightens the responsibilities and the load for them to help each other out. Which brings me to my next slide. My time in Gloucester Township. Gloucester Township is my second family. I mean, Vineland is where I grew up. I love Vineland. That is my home. But my second family lies in Gloucester Township. I love Gloucester Township. The people there are my brothers and sisters, and they know that 8 years I've been there happily. These people are my family. We have celebrated so many things together, from weddings. They threw me a baby shower that I'll never forget, that was on par with some of the best parties I've ever been to. I have a core group of support, from my 5th grade cohorts, teammates, to my interventionists who I work with on a daily basis, who I co-teach with at times, to my administration who support me no matter what. Everything we do in Gloucester Township is a group. We support each other, we lift each other up. We do everything as a group, which helps when it comes to putting out a product, whether it be an after school event or something to present to the families or to our district. We do this as a group and we rely on each other. And I have to say that nothing that I've accomplished that's been successful in the 8 years that I've been in Gloucester Township has been done without the help of my colleagues. They are my saving grace. They're my dream team. So I have to give props to Gloucester Township, especially my Loring Flemming family. I love them with all my heart. And I think finding that area when you become a teacher, finding that school and that environment is going to be essential in you flourishing and being the best teacher that you can possibly be. And I think this is the most vital factor in retaining all of our teachers. Unfortunately, in my second year at Loring Flemming, Mr. Malamed passed away due to cancer. And it still affects me nowadays. It's almost like a father had left, and the Gabriel Project was still operating. And his brother and I tried to keep the project afloat. And we had some success. We did it for a couple of years. We put on a couple of events, but it was never to the point of its original effect. It was much larger than we had the education to keep alive. The Gabriel Project dismantled in 2017. And even to this day, I feel some guilt and regret. On his deathbed, I promised him that no matter what, I was going to keep his legacy alive. And I knew I wanted to be part of the Gabriel Project. And unfortunately, it was just a tough thing to do, especially with his brother living in North Jersey and us trying to work together was a little difficult. But I was given the opportunity, and I don't know if this is by fate or destiny or just by chance, to facilitate a project within Loring Flemming. And I needed that because it was going to fill that void. And it would be something that I could grow with and yet still maintain the spirit of community that Malamed gave to me and offered me so many years ago. And I did a lot of research on what I can do with after school groups. With younger kids in elementary school, it's a little bit more difficult to facilitate community service groups because of transportation issues and other factors that might get in the way. And on top of them learning the verbiage and lessons that would be beneficial to do community service projects. But I kind of developed a program from the ground up, and which I call YPOC, which is one of my favorite things that I get to do in my school now. So YPOC stands for Young People of Character. Young People of Character. As you can see here, fourth and fifth graders who learned the foundation of being leaders in the community. And that was something that I wanted to really focus on. And it's almost to the spirit of CFE that we're looking for people in our groups who give that spark that we know that we're going to invest in because they're going to come back and it'll pay dividends later on down the road. And these students were those students that provided a spark for me at such an early age. They just had a want. And they come from all different walks of life, from ethnicities to behaviors. Some of these students had more referrals than you can probably think. They come from different academic levels. I wasn't looking for straight A students. That's not, being a straight A student does not determine the size of your heart. But I wanted people who cared about other people, who cared about their fellow human beings. And, the goal for YPOC every year was to work together, regardless of our socioeconomic level, and better our community. And we've done this. We've been doing this for the third year. We're still growing. We even continued during COVID. We kind of changed the medium a little bit. We did something like a speaker series via Zoom with leaders around the community. They came with questions. And I love elementary school students because they're so inquisitive and everything comes out of their curiosity. And the speakers that we talked to were extremely engaging. And it was actually a lot of fun this year, despite despite the obstacles of COVID. So it brings me to where we are now, New Jersey State Teacher of the Year. Right? And this is my newest mission, which requires me to readjust my goals and really reevaluate my purpose. As New Jersey State Teacher of the Year, you have a 6-month sabbatical, and it's sort of a different experience during COVID. Traditionally, New Jersey State Teachers of the Year would go to Trenton, work under the Department of Education and other entities and stakeholders in education, and work on policies at the office. Now, this year I am home. Home is my office, and basically everything is done obviously via computer communication. But it still doesn't change the fact that I'm still working on several projects and policies that I believe will help me leave my legacy as New Jersey State Teacher of the Year. As Steve alluded to earlier, one of the projects that I'm working with is diversifying the teacher pipeline, really engaging in young educators, especially of diverse backgrounds, into looking at education as a viable profession, as a respected profession, and that one that offers, thanks to our union, one that offers a lot to its members, from benefits that are material to, as you know, as you're growing up and being a cadet of education, there are intrinsic benefits and values that you couldn't slap a price tag on. I'm also working with the Latino Hispanic Heritage Commission, working with the Office of Student Support Services for an anti-bias toolkit for teachers, which is in response to what we're seeing now when it comes to social justice and really breaking down some of the biases that we have that we don't even know that we have. I am very excited to work with the ACES Collaborative, which is founded by the Burke Foundation and the Office of Resilience, really bringing awareness to adverse childhood experiences that are affecting many of the students. Some that I alluded to, some of the issues that I alluded to in my past, such as abuse, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, physical abuse, and other experiences that may affect the mental health of our students. Very, very excited on jumping in and working with the ACES Collaborative on their work and really bringing awareness to that collaborative. Obviously, I work hand in hand with the NJEA. Steve has become a good friend of mine. I'm very happy to be working with the NJEA, various different topics, especially when it comes to social justice. And I must say that I'm extremely impressed with how NJEA is stepping up and stepping forward when it comes to topics surrounding Black Lives Matter and moving forward, to highlight the causes of people of color. I'm very proud of my union for taking those steps. And I do various speaking engagements like ones that we have now with various stakeholders and education. I just started a podcast, the Pedagogy Podcast, highlighting teachers and educational professionals, and also students who are making a difference in education. And those are stories that I want to get out there to the public so that they know why New Jersey's is leading the country when it comes to education. So what lies beyond? What lies beyond? So as I work through the sabbatical, once again, it's yet another chance to really ask myself, my inspirations, really? Who is my inspiration? One of them is here with me today, who's become a great friend of mine, part of my tribe, Ms. Kimberly Dickstein Hughes. I also have to reevaluate my goals and my purpose. I need to ask myself, what do I need to accomplish during this time? I'm sure Kimberly can attest that these goals and this purpose are fluid. They change. You never know when the world will throw a pandemic at you. So being adaptable is a great quality for an educator. And I have to say, as an aside, Kimberly did a fine job last year, really leading our country, our state in her NJ Learning Live initiative and closing that equity gap for our students by providing them high quality lessons on TV that they can tune into. Kimberly did a fine job doing that, and I was happy to be a part of that. And then I really have to evaluate my purpose as New Jersey State Teacher of the Year. And that's something that is continuing in the work that I'm doing now. I've only been on my sabbatical for about 3 weeks now. And, there's been a lot of reevaluation, there's a lot of change, but one thing will never change. I want to help this profession as much as I can. I want to leave my mark for when I'm gone. I want to help the future educators understand that this is a profession that does give back. It gives back in ways that you could not, like I said earlier, put a price tag on. You can lay your head down at night knowing that you did good every day, right? I get to find a place, a point, a building, a profession that I know I'm doing the most good in this particular point in time. So I call to you at this moment. I want you to consider, what is your purpose? It's very important to have attainable goals. Don't get me wrong, right? I love goals. Goals get us to where we need to be, and they make us feel good, build our confidence to get to pursue dreams and other difficult goals. But I don't want you to lose focus on your purpose and growing your purpose, maturing your purpose with you. I want you to look back at the moments and the people and the times, the places that inspire you. Use them as a guide. Ask yourself, what is your purpose in this journey right now to become an educator? I think it's a very humbling and clarifying practice to ask yourself, what is the purpose of attaining your goals and moving in a certain directions at pivotal times in your life? It's going to help you find your niche in this world. And most importantly, it's going to help you find a place where you can find the most good, where you can do the most good to help your fellow human beings out. And that's what should be at the basis of everything that you do. So I want you to remember one thing, just make this journey fun. Make it fun, write your own journey. It's going to be different than your fellow peers and even the people who came before you. It is your story to write, chapter by chapter. It is going to be a beautiful story. And I want to thank you for having me here with you folks. It's been this whole process of writing this and really going back in time and figuring out why I wanted to be an educator has been one of those times where I get to reflect. And thank you for the opportunity. I know we have some questions coming up, so I'm very excited to hear what we have.
And thank you so much, Angel. It was awesome. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing your inspiration and for challenging all of our participants to think about purpose and goals in life. That is a really crucial part. You absolutely need to examine why you want to do this, why you want to pursue education, because you really have to want it with your whole heart, because it takes everything you got to make it successful. At this point in time, I would also like to introduce our 2019-2020 State Teacher of the Year to do a little interview. This is an unusual speaker series in that we're going to have folks interview each other, distinguished educators interview other ones. So Kimberly Dickstein Hughes teaches English language arts at Haddonfield Memorial High School and is the 2019-2020 New Jersey State Teacher of the Year. Her love for learning begins with her family, teachers, students, colleagues, and community. So we have some questions that have already been submitted by students that we have, but if you have others please submit them in the Q&A box or in the chat box, and we will also monitor that. So I'm going to ask them to unmute and take it away, folks.
Thank you, Jeannie. And I also want to thank all of the students who submitted questions to the Center for Future Educators. Angel, you predicted so many of these questions. You are a mind reader and a fantastic teacher. So kudos to you. And I'm going to do my best to cover as many of these questions or a nuance of these questions, but please drop questions in the chat if you have them. I'm going to do my best to moderate the Q&A as well. So Angel, thank you for taking us on that journey and revisiting your purpose through all of your experiences. I just have to share this with you. I found my journal from my first year of teaching today. And I can't wait to kind of go back with you on that, but it made me revisit my purpose, and you're constantly revisiting your purpose. So you had talked about how your role models had shaped your purpose. You talked about Ms. Quinn, Mr. Malamud, Sue Caccini, Dr. Bender. So I just want to know, and maybe you can play this back, like how have you taken the lessons of your role models into your classroom, into your everyday practice?
I think that that's an amazing question, because without even knowing, your role models become you. They are almost like a hybrid. They bits and pieces of your pedagogy come from the lessons that they give us. So, my demeanor, the way I joke with my kids really comes from Mr. Melamed, right? Mr. Malamud. A lot of people used to call him Mr. Melamed. And we used to joke with him, like, Mr. Melonhead. And he's like, that with us. But, the way I used to joke with him and the rapport that he had with his students through osmosis is I see myself. I hear his words when I teach. When it comes to Sue Caccini, her heart, her compassion, the way she made me feel like I was part of her family. That is something that is part of me. It's ingrained in me. I generally care about my kids. They are mine for the 9 or 10 months that I have them. And with social media now, I'm an extended family member. I'm keeping up with them all the time. Dr. Bender really made me realize the stories that some of my students are experiencing, and how I really needed to be that role model for a place of those gaps in where some of my students just don't have a male figure, that they might need that extra love, the extra attention, to help them figure out, their purpose and their journey in life. And then Mrs. Quinn, and I got to say, Mrs. Quinn has been an amazing figure. She continues to offer opportunities for me to engage with her school. She's a principal at this point, but as a first year teacher, to make me feel like I was important, that I was a vital part of my school and the classroom. That was as a practice that, every good educator needs to do every day, right? You need to make your students feel like that the place that they go to school loves them, because in turn they will love it, And so, those are the lessons. Like I said, it's almost like a Frankenstein effect, where bits and pieces of each teacher are me. So that's what I do on a daily basis.
The culmination of so many efforts, Angel. As I'm listening to you, your teachers would be so proud and are so proud. And I keep thinking everyone on this call was invited to this call by an educator. And so I want everyone kind of reflect, like think about this individual who has kind of shaped your journey to get here today. So I really think that's so relatable. And you spent so much time on this call honoring your educators. So what do you think your students would say about Mr. Santiago? What do you hope that they will say 20 years down the line?
Well, with Kimberly and I, we leave the profession for 6 months. So right before I left, they put together this compilation, kind of like a slide, and of the things that they said they're going to miss the most. And they went back to the demeanor, the rapport that I had with them, the fact that, whenever they were sad or down, I came at them with a dad joke, and it was the worst dad joke that they could ever hear. And it wasn't funny, but it was so corny that it made them smile. And those small things that are, and Kimberly and I talked before about finding those moments outside the curriculum where they are going to remember those things the most. The lessons on community service, the lessons that are outside of the book, of the manual, the teacher's manual, those are the times that your students are going to remember the most. Me dancing the floss and looking like an idiot, right up there, right?
You looked all right in that GIF.
I practiced that. Those are the things that they remember the most. And, you know, with younger students, elementary school students, they are so loving and they show it to you. You know, there's no hiding that. You can't, they never hide that smile. And you know, I try to, you know, reflect that to them. They know when I'm happy because I'm an emotional person. So when I'm proud, I'm probably going to cry. You know what I mean? So, and they remember that. And, you know, those are the things that they're going to remember. To this day, they email me. Some of them are in their senior year of high school. And just to see how Mr. Santiago is during COVID. How you making out, Mr. Santiago? I'm doing good. How you making out? You know, and those are the things that that I remember, and I know they're going to remember those little moments outside of the curriculum.
So, Mr. Santiago, there's a question from the Q&A from Sarah that I think actually fits here because you're kind of talking about the experience of all of your students. I know this is a part of your platform and your passion work, but how do you help create a more diverse and accepting classroom for your students of color? And speak to maybe some like personal experiences that you've had.
Absolutely. I'm part of the Multicultural Club in our school. Multicultural Club is a group of educators really dedicated to really beautifying our school and making sure that all of our students are inclusive. We hold events like Hispanic Heritage Month. Last year, we had a Black History Month and Women's History Month. We joined them together. Wax Museum at the end of February. It was the last thing we did before COVID. And parents came to the school. And these kids were so incredibly proud to dress up as Malcolm X. And I would tell you, even our white students, you know, our students who aren't of color, I had a boy by the name of Colin, and his favorite baseball player was Mike Trout, obviously Mike Trout from New Jersey. And he got to reading about Jackie Robinson, got the statistics up and flipped. I love Mike Trout. He's great. But Jackie Robinson, that's my favorite player this year. And these are sort of things that aren't written into our curriculum, that the cohort got together, the fifth graders got together, and we kind of made a conscious decision to make this the beginning of a new tradition where we would invite our parents and our students to really have a passion project of their own, to really go out and pick whoever they wanted to pick and dress up as them, or they can put, they made projects about them, and to really pursue their interest. And I tell you, some of the projects, we had a young lady who did Pocahontas, and she was a Hispanic girl, but you know, she saw herself in Pocahontas, right? She saw herself, and it completely changed her academics. She took school to another level after that project. And it was great to see that. And those are the type of things that we have to find more and more time for, right? We have to find more and more time for.
As I'm listening to you, what I really appreciate, Angel, is that you are making the curriculum come to life for all of your students, in particular your students of color in that example, and really creating that community around acceptance and inclusion, which makes it much more engaging and meaningful. And so since we're talking about like what you're doing in the classroom, let's stay with your career. So I'm gonna ask some big questions. So, and this is from Edison High School, actually, I just wanna give them a shout out. So what has been the most rewarding part of being a teacher? If you had to isolate the most rewarding part, what would it be?
Now, obviously, we look at teaching, you know, we gather the data, we see their growth academically. There's numerous of ways that we can assess to see how our students become better readers, better writers, better at mathematics. But the aspect where we don't have a test for is how they mature and grow as human beings. And I think fifth grade is a great point because it's at the end of, I feel like, a developmental phase for our students, where they start to become their own person. And the questions that they come up with, the curiosities that they come up with, really are questions not only for the self, but for their fellow human beings as well. And I get to see the growth of a human being within their heart, within their mind, how they become basically young kids to empathetic and compassionate young adults, and they're getting to that age, and it's a beautiful thing to see. Unfortunately, in our district, they leave us in 5th grade, so I'm not an everyday part of that process after they leave us, but to see that huge developmental growth in social emotional, the social emotional aspect of their life, that is something that I believe is the greatest thing to see, the greatest experience as an educator in 5th grade. It's the reason why when they leave us, I'm bawling every year. Every year, my principal comes to me, says, "Again, this is gonna happen again." Of course, I love these kids.
Do you feel that your experiences as a child lead you to appreciating growth? Like that's your favorite aspect because of the growth you experienced as an elementary school student?
Absolutely, I think that's part of, because I see myself in my kids, and even though we have different aspects and different ways and different journeys, but I do see some aspects in some, especially some of my kids, those who experience the most growth, those who I know really couldn't confide in other educators, and they finally found a person that got them, and really, they send me that love, of course, because I had those teachers as well. And I strive to be a teacher like Quinn or Malamed, that really connects with his students, and knows, and his students they know that I have their back no matter what, no matter how old they get. They just need to come back to me, and I will support them in any way that I can.
I hear you loud and clear, Angel. When I think about what is the most rewarding aspect, it's relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And something that someone said in the Q&A, not necessarily a question, but a comment, was about like how amazing it is that students feel so connected. And this is 766641. I know your name's not on there, but I still want to give you a shout out. But the idea is that a lot of times, like if you don't feel connected, like where is the incentive and where is that drive? And so that connection is so key. So if you had to connect back with your first year self as a teacher, and I have evidence now that I had the same exact experience. I just read a journal entry today about my first experience. It was less than positive because the stress and the weight of that first year. And what would you say to your first year teacher self and to all first year teachers?
Yeah, as you can see during the slide, I had no picture, right? I was, like I said before, I was a hot mess. I have the picture. It's in my classroom in Loring Flemming. But I really didn't, I had another cell phone at that point. So all my pictures were taken on another phone and another network. But really I struggled. I felt at points I was isolated. I felt as if, I couldn't ask for help, because if I asked for help, I would seem weak, and I'm a first year teacher and they could fire me at any time. And that was the thing that I was most scared about. I'm not tenured. They could fire me at any time. I got to act like I know what I'm doing. And to go about it that way, you're going to cause yourself a lot of stress. You're going to cause yourself a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. I was sick quite often my first year because of my stress. And to go back to my former self, to tell my former self that it's okay to ask for help, to really build connections with other people, people in your cohort, and really ask for help, because people, your colleagues are there to help you. They all know what it was like to be a first year teacher. And in our model in Loring Flemming, we have a group called SOS, which means support on staff. And our untenured teachers or non-tenured teachers are able to attend meetings that really help them grow as educators. And it's usually facilitated by a veteran teacher. And I was able to do that for a couple of years. I was a facilitator of SOS. But on top of that, I'm one of those people which is like an unofficial mentor to whoever comes in our building and needs support and help. Everyone knows, go ask Santiago, and I'll do everything in my power to find the answer. If I can't find the answer, I'll find someone that knows the answer. And I want my, the first year teachers to understand that it's okay to ask for help, and really to establish a base of a couple educators in your school that you feel comfortable with, that will help support you on your journey through education. Like we said before, and Dr. DeCole referred to this. This is not easy. This is not an easy job, but you have help. You just have to find those connections with your colleagues.
What I was thinking also was that, this is something that you don't just implement your first year of teaching. Like, you implement that right now.
Yeah.
And when you need help, you ask your peers, right? In your cohort, your class of future educators, or in your semester course, or whatever it may be, like, those are your people, right? And that's your network. It starts now. It's actually that network, you've been building that since you were born. And you can see, like, Angel, it's like, you and I are of the belief that, like, take people with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And so that's so important. If you walk away from this knowing, like, that piece of advice, Angel, is key, but it's not just first year advice. I think that's your entire career advice as you go throughout. So speaking of your entire career, first year, Mr. Santiago, did you ever expect to get to this point? How do you feel? Talk to us about this stage of the journey.
Well, absolutely not. I mean, my first year teacher, as a first year teacher, I looked at my, I would never consider myself a New Jersey State Teacher of the Year, but I did take that experience, and I took that as a learning experience. I was the most uncomfortable I've ever felt as an educator. And I think that was probably a good thing, because, when we feel that sense of failure, when we feel that sense of uncomfortableness, I think that's when we grow the most, right? And I continue to seek out opportunities that I might not be an expert on, Teacher of the Year being one of them, where it takes me out of my comfort zone, because I want to grow as an educator and I want to grow as a human being. And so, although I did not think that I would ever be at this position right now, I did take that year to reflect and say, I will never have a year like that again. I will never have a year where I felt unprepared and overwhelmed. I was going to change that no matter what. And, the next 8 years, I really made it my mission to be the best educator that I can possibly be with the resources that I had. And so, although I didn't feel that I would ever become Teacher of the Year, I did use that as a learning experience to kind of springboard a journey to just be a great teacher and to become an effective teacher, and one that, students would always remember.
I think the students on this call will always remember you and your energy. It's palpable. You can feel it through the screen. I know I'm feeling it. And so, one piece of advice that I really felt in my heart, Angel, was when you said, do the most good. And I actually have a sign right there. I'm not that says, do the most good. And I was like, wow, like right there. I'm with you, Angel. So do the most good. So our students were on this call, and I know we're kind of at the end, and we've covered all of your questions. They were so good. Angel, like I said, you're a mind reader, but this do the most good. What good can our listeners do after this call? Like, what's one tangible, I know this is a tough question, a tangible thing that someone can do after this call?
I want to first and foremost say that the profession of teaching is all about beg, borrowing, and stealing. So I got to say, I definitely stole that from the moderator right now, Ms. Kimberly Dickstein Hughes. We had a conversation not too long ago, and we're talking about, being at a place where you do the most good, and, what's your purpose at this point in time. So first and foremost, reevaluate what your purpose is right now. Use your strengths to propose to propel you in any journey that you see fit. If you're a musician, use your voice, use your instrument. I go back to that symbolism, because I am a musician, and it's, music is a tool that I continue to use in my classroom. If you are an orator, use your voice, and that's something that Kimberly is very good at. And Ms. Dickstein Hughes is a great orator. She's a pro. Use that. Use your gifts to do whatever you feel is going to do the most good in this world. And that could be anything that you believe, sports, anything that you believe is your strength. And I think to rely on that is going to make your journey an enjoyable journey, a meaningful journey, and will be authentic. And I think that's the best advice I can give as you move forward. Use your gifts.
Angel, I love that. With our final thought, that was our final question in this round. But everyone, share your gift, identify your gift, and share it with the world. Angel, thank you for sharing your gift with all of us. And I'm going to turn this program back to Jeannie. Yes, no, yes?
Yes, thank you. So thank you so much. I'm gonna let's switch our view a little bit. And so Angel, thank you so much. And Kim, thank you so much for asking such thoughtful questions. Like I said, education is all about collaboration, networking. You talked about your family, your teacher family, your educator family, and how support systems actually keep you all together. And here at the Center for Future Educators, we wouldn't exist without the NJEA, certainly, and without the College of New Jersey, which is our home. So I would like to introduce the Dean of Education, Dr. Suzanne Mccotter, just to say hello and a few words. And then I'm going to come back with a really cool, weird lightning round of kind of quirky questions. So Dr. Mccotter, take it away.
Thank you so much, Dr. Del Cole, and thank you so much, Angel and Kimberly, for doing this. It was amazing. Angel, when I am asked to write a letter of recommendation for a prospective teacher, I have two filter questions. My questions are, would I want to teach next door to this person? And would I want this person teaching my children? And I can tell from everything you radiate that for you, the answer would have been a resounding yes at any point in your career. So thank you so much. The state has clearly made a wonderful choice. And the one other unseen, unheard person who gets all of our thanks is Ms. Wamboy Gilbert, who does so much of the organization for everything having to do with the Center for Future Educators. So thank you all. I am just privileged to be a part of this.
Thank you very much. And yes, absolutely. Thank you to Wamboy. We wouldn't be able to run without her here. So she is the glue that holds us all together, and we are eternally grateful for that. Okay, so this is a speaker series. It's a new program for us, and it's something that we're going to try, try a little innovation, try a little creativity. So I don't know about you, Angel, but I used to watch often. There was a program called Inside the Actor's Studio with an interviewer named James Lipton, and he used to ask all of his panelists this standard set of questions at the end of every event. And so I thought, well, wouldn't it be great if we could modify the questions to fit an education crowd and do the same thing, so we can see sort of across the spectrum how educators respond to these questions. So if you don't mind indulging me for a little bit longer, Angel, I've got some rapid fire questions for you here, and then we're gonna take it away. You ready?
I can't wait. Let's go.
Okay, here we go. Number one, what's your favorite word?
So this is something I use on my podcast, and it's a tough question, especially for English language arts teachers, because that's what we deal with every day. But I keep on going back to that word perseverance, and I think it has a history with me from the beginning of my life to even my teaching career. To persevere, to tough it out, to get through, and to be better on the other side. I have to go with perseverance.
All right. What's your least favorite word?
Quit.
Ooh,
Quit.
good one. Okay, if you could have any superhero power, what would it be?
I'd have to say mastermind, like a wealth of knowledge, kind of like a super brain, probably.
Okay, what was your favorite subject when you were at school?
Oh, history, social studies.
What subject or grade level do you wish you taught?
Actually, I wish I taught. I wish to be a professor of education a little bit down the road. I'd love to.
Okay. And what subject or grade level would you not want to teach?
Kindergarten, because I would be I'll be a pushover.
Okay. What sound or noise do you love?
The sound of my son's voice.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Nails on the chalkboard.
All right. If someone were to play you in a movie version of your life, who would you want it to be?
Wilder Valderrama.
Okay. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
possibly an A&R for a music company or a producer of music.
Okay. And final question, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Good job, my friend. Good job.
All right. And thank you, Angel. Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, everybody, for making this possible today. We have had a great time with you here. Angel has contact information he's going to put in the chat. I think maybe Kim might have done that already. You can also follow us at CFE, at TCNJ, and we will have this recording available on our CFE website as of next week. But as always, if you need to contact us for anything at all, please send us an email, cfe@tcnj.edu. Thanks so much, everybody. We appreciate you being here today. Thank you for joining us on our inaugural speaker series event.